Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the season finale of Britball with the Breens. The reason for this is that unfortunately I'm unavailable the next 2 Fridays, and realistically there won't be enough games after that. So we'll basically do articles for the playoffs, who we think is going to win them, who we think is going to get promoted up to the next division, etc. And then we'll do an awards article again, like we did last year, come the end of the season. But as I say, this will be our last show tonight. So we weren't supposed to have a guest, but we do have one coming on. So he's going to come on a bit later. So at the moment, the extra stuff we know this week that's happened is obviously there's been a statement released from BAFA today to say that they'd had a meeting with the clubs that put forward a representation towards kind of wanting an EGM, and so I believe there was a meeting in Birmingham. A statement's been released about that, so Steve's going to come on and talk about it, about some of the ins and outs of it later on. So what we're going to do is we're going to bar through, but Chris is you're just going to say something quickly before.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it would be absolutely remiss if kind of we didn't mention sort of the GB women's performance on Wednesday night against Canada, getting themselves into the gold medal match against the USA as well. It was an unbelievable win. I mean, despite the fact they didn't they didn't even get their opening game against Canada. Get sort of the jitters out and get that sort of thing going. And I only got to see sort of just past halftime, I guess, unfortunately, because I had practice. But I thought they played, from what I seen, they played really well, and they showed a lot of grit as well. But I think a lot of big plays at big moments. I mean, it looked like it was going to sort of go into halftime tied, and then GB called the timeout and decided to go all out after the punt with sort of 30 seconds left in the half. Didn't get it, but they forced the Canadian punter to end up taking a knee, which then put them in the position with like 3 seconds left in the half to run one last play on the 2-yard line, and got themselves in to take the lead. And obviously at the end of the game, the great play to finish it and get the victory. Absolutely huge win. Every time the Lions sort of go on to the international stage, they never ever fail to impress. It was another great performance, and obviously, we both wish them luck in the final against the USA.
Yeah, someone's just posted up there. I'll be honest and say I haven't seen the game. Chris, was there a link put up? I'm guessing you watched it before,
Yeah, there was. I can't remember where the link was. I mean, to be fair, we could have just made all three of them. There was the pick six. The pick six they had by I believe Lucy Petey. I mean, that was a phenomenal jump of the route and return to the house as well. It was just, I mean, overall, it was just unbelievable to watch them. They played really well.
Do you know roughly when it was?
I couldn't tell you. I was kind of on the go, trying to get ready at the same time. So I didn't manage to pick out exactly when it was.
Okay.
But no,
we only have two plays of the week this week, so we could put in a third one from GB Women. But I say I didn't watch the game, so.
I mean, if you carry on, I can certainly search through for it and give you some timestamps as well, because it's not actually a bad idea to sort of include that as well. So.
Okay, well, I'll carry on with this then, and while you have a look, and you can let me know. So we're going to just quickly go through our usual. So I'm just going to share my screen first. We'll talk a little bit more about this later with Steve, because there might be a big impact for some of these teams. But yeah, scumbag section this week. Sauce pulled out again last week. The Exiles pulled out last week on game day, and the DC Presidents have already pulled out of this week. There you go, Chris. Mid-quarter 2 was a pick 6. So I believe that part of the resolutions this week is that there might be punishments for some of these teams. Personally, I can't see them doing it, but there should be. So we'll see what comes of that.
I think kind of without sort of dragging it on too much, I guess. A couple of things. First of all, the Worcestershire Black Knights absolutely don't even deserve a nickname anymore. Get that straight in the bin. And again, Premier Division teams pulling out of games.
Yeah.
Everyone can talk about what they want about, Div 2 or whatever they want to say. But when you've got Premier Division teams pulling out of games in back-to-back weeks, it is an absolute embarrassment for the sport.
Yeah. Well,
Absolute embarrassment.
I don't really want to go into this just now because it's something we're going to talk about because I believe that this is the reason why Bath have actioned this. It's not, but like they've even said in their statement because of they're disappointed in the highest level of teams pulling out. So I guess it is, but I don't really want to go too much into it just now because I want to get through stuff before we go into this with Steve. DC pulling out hands. Yeah, it does. I mean, it would. They weren't going to win anyway. But yeah, Darlington would have destroyed them. But it does hand the division to Darlington now that they've got their things sorted out a couple of weeks ago. So quickly this week, I just want to go through the power rankings purely because some folk obviously seem to have a real issue with it. Now I know there's a text issue in the Wembley bit that happens. It is just meant to be say something else. The biggest thing here, nobody seems to have much problem with the Prem division except for someone commented about the Wolves being way better than the Exiles, and I was like, well, that's why they're above them. I'm not quite sure what we're supposed to say with that. And like the Exiles, yeah, they pulled out, and yeah, it was crap, but I still think a Kent Exiles team would beat Merseyside or Sheffield. So, like, I granted that they pulled out and it was horrendous, but I still think they would beat Merseyside and Sheffield if they ended up playing each other. So that one was simple. Division 1, again, I don't think anyone had any problems until it was down kind of this neck of the woods. Cambridgeshire, again, they lost to Wembley a couple of weeks ago. They should win this week unless the London Blitz B turn up and disappoint them. Chester Romans won again. They'll go into the playoffs to face Leicester. Oh, yeah, we get to see that again. Hertfordshire, they obviously lost last game of the season, but they were already guaranteed the playoffs and the division crown. So Wembley have jumped in after beating two of the top 10 teams in the last 2 weeks and getting themselves a place in the playoffs. And London dropped down one. Now I know Bournemouth, like Caesars were always saying before. I know Bournemouth or someone's angry from Bournemouth, but realistically, Bournemouth have the same record as London. London have beat a team in the top 10. I don't understand what the problem is here. Like Bournemouth were on our looking in section for like 4 weeks and just never cracked it, and then they ended up winning the last game of the season against Hertfordshire, and all of a sudden won't bold in the top 10 again. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, but we just reckon that this is the top 10 teams this season. Obviously, the Hornets losing the last game, but if you watch the highlights, I mean, they were winning going into the fourth quarter and just seemed to absolutely crumble in the fourth quarter. 2 pick sixes and a fumble 6 in the fourth quarter basically ruined them. So yeah, I think this is the top teams. I say someone pointed out about Yorkshire. Even though Yorkshire never made the playoffs, I still think they beat most of the teams below them, if not all of them, on any given day. So again, everyone's entitled to their opinion, but that's what I went for. Right, play of the week this week. So again, I've got 2. If Chris manages to find this third one, he can send me a link to it.
Unfortunately, I have went on to it, but it's not letting me actually replay it. It says I need to sort of sign up or sign in to be able to watch a replay of it, which is really unfortunate, actually. If anyone's able to like screen record it because they can get in and send it to us, then by all means do so. Because especially there was a lot of good plays, but especially the pick 6 was absolute quality.
Yeah, you can send it to our Instagram or our Twitter, and we'll share it on. But yeah, so saying unfortunately not had a huge time to look this week, and there not been a few amount of plays, but I have been sent a couple. So the first one is from that Wembley versus London Hornets game. I'll make sure this is the right place. Basically, this is the score. So that was the score there going into the fourth quarter. So that's another thing there that just saying for people in the power rankings, that was the score going into the fourth quarter of that game. So the Hornets just looked like they crumbled and just made so many mistakes that ended up a defensive touchdown for Wembley. So it's not this play here. I think it's the next one. I don't want to skip too far in case I miss it. So this is it here. So it is that one. So basically here, we've got a QB and shotgun, takes a snap. Guy comes through and rushes him, passes it up. Defensive player goes up and grabs it, breaks one tackle, outruns the rest of the team into the end zone. So again, as I said, this game was mighty close, but these mistakes were, I mean, this isn't a good throw. Granted, he's off his back foot. It's kind of a flick of the wrist. I'm assuming he's looking for number 2. Cornerback leaves his man over here when he sees the opportunity. He goes proper high to get it. Another really, really good athletic play here. But then once he's there, he's missing one guy, and then it's a straight shoot to the end zone. So a really good play from the Wembley defender there. There were some really good plays in this game, but that was probably the best one. The other one's actually from the juniors. So this is from the final for the Northants Knights. Now this running back had loads of plays, but the other one I'm not showing because there was an illegal block in it. They sent me it saying, oh, "Look at this block," and to be fair, it was good to watch, but it should have been flagged. This one here. So you're watching the running back. Running back's going to take a handoff. He's going to go outside. He's going to juke one guy. He's going to juke 2 guys, 3 guys, 4, and then he's away to the house. Only thing I'll say is, if you're up in Scotland, don't celebrate early. You get flagged for that up here. So we'll watch it through again. He obviously jumps out to the outside here. So he jumps out to the outside. This guy comes up to make the tackle, jukes him. Then 33 spare to make the tackle. Jukes past this guy, then jukes past 33, past the last guy, and he's away to the house. Absolute superb play. Especially for my junior, like a junior having that vision and that body control and skills to make that play is absolute quality. So that's the 2 plays there. Chris, which one do you prefer?
I mean, I think this is kind of open and shut for me. It's got to be the running back from Northants there. You know, the pick is nice. I think when you take into account that, I mean, take nothing away from Wembley, like they get the pressure on the quarterback and they force him into a mistake. But when you're looking at the scoreline in that game, and that point in the game, knowing that winning in, you know for a fact that the head coach and OC are absolutely having kittens about the fact their quarterback decided just to heave that one up. It was a nice play and he got back, but I mean, you know, you're watching the running back break 3-4 tackles, making guys miss, some great vision, great running. I mean, it's kind of open and shut for me. I guess the only other point is it feels a bit harsh on Chester that their record in overtime and finals is not good.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I'm in the same train of thought here. I think the play by Wembley is really good, and obviously it's turned the game for Wembley, and then they've ended up going on winning the game, getting in the playoffs, and now you never know because they were undefeated at the start of the season as well. So are they finding their form again at the right time? But realistically, this play is very, very good. I say he had a couple of them I got sent. One of them was some of his jump cuts were ridiculous, but as I say, there was some illegal blocking in the back. So this is the best one here. Absolute quality play. I actually don't think I got the name of the kid. I'll just double check. No, I just got told MVP. So He was obviously the MVP of the final, but this guy, absolutely phenomenal play. We'll watch it one more time. Absolute phenomenal play. It's all him really. The blocking's good to start with, but there are plenty free tacklers to get him, and to make all these moves is just nuts. So that'll be our play of the week. Congratulations to the Northants Knights young lad there. That's absolute cracking play. Right, we'll go into game of the week. There are a couple of game of the week contenders this week. Literally only a couple, but this one's going to come out on top. It's for the division. They were pretty damn close last time. One score game last time. Granted, it was at Somerset, but you'd like to think that Somerset are at the point where they know that if they bring a full squad up to Bristol, that they're going to give themselves every chance. And realistically, Bristol will be just going out there to make sure that they win and they're in. Someone did tell me some of the playoff seedings that have already been released at the moment, but I don't actually have a defined list of them at the moment. But Bristol would be in the top four, I would think, just now. So it's up to them to stay there. I think there's some big time travel going to come on in the playoffs for Division 2 teams if things stay the way they are. But for me, I think Bristol will see this one out. I think they'll know what's at stake. Somerset are going to come up fighting. They're going to want to try and steal the division off them in the last game. But I think Bristol are maybe just a little bit, they'll have that grit in their teeth knowing they can make the playoffs with a win or a draw. And realistically, I think that they'll just have a little bit too much at home.
Yeah, and I mean, this is one of effectively several big games this week in a way because neither of the top, the division topping teams in the south have dropped a game. So not only is this a big game for both teams with respect to division title on the line, if Bristol do come out on top, the points against becomes monumental in this game because it's the difference between potentially hosting two games before a final and maybe traveling to the Sabres and Norwich potentially. So it's absolutely humongous, this game, and the pressure is absolutely on. But I think in some ways that might keep it nice and tight because it was a close game last time, and the Wyverns have nothing to lose, right? They need to overturn the deficit from their previous game, which I don't believe was much against Apache. But I just think when it comes down to it, the experience on the Apache side is what's going to tell in the end. I think it's going to be tight, but I think Bristol win.
Do you think what's interesting here is when it comes to the playoffs is I'm sure Norwich are undefeated, but I'm sure they're going to be number 4 because East Essex haven't conceded almost anything at all.
True,
The
but
Stags haven't
they have a
conceded
game
much.
this weekend. Yeah, but remember the North and South are split.
I know, yeah.
So the Stags don't really apply to it, the South at the moment. But the 4 South teams all play this week, I believe. And yeah, then it comes down to points against. So
are these SFT West? Yeah, they are.
Yeah, but the important thing to remember about this as well is the Apache's points against per game is going to be spread out over the 8 games, whereas Northants' points against per game is going to be spread out over like 4.
Yeah.
So
well, they've only got Somerset have only got 4 points to turn over. It was only 14-18.
But then the thing is, if Somerset win, then they'll be the bottom of the 4 because they've lost a game, providing the other 3 all win.
Yeah, this is what I was saying, Tom. So Norwich, East Essex Sabres, Bristol, and Northants are all undefeated. Oh, Northants are top or North are there? Who's the other South team I'm thinking of?
There's Norwich, East Essex,
Bristol,
and Northants.
Oh, it is Northants. Yeah, I was right enough the first time.
In the North, the division winners, you've got the Highland Stags, will come on to the Scunthorpe Alphas if they win their game. Then you've got Staffordshire Surge, and now the Darlington's team will be confirmed as well.
Yeah, and someone's here saying about Darlington had the head-to-head over Gateshead, and it would have been a very bad day. The officers team, yeah, they wouldn't have lost DC.
I get the point about DC pulling out hand in the NFC 2 East to Darlington, but the harsh reality is it would not made a jot of difference. They'd have pummeled the living daylights out of DC. Which
the interesting thing is, realistically, the most interesting thing in the north is who's going up to Highland, because nobody's close.
Well, at the moment, it would have to be Darlington, because Darlington are the only division winners that have lost a game.
Yeah. So
the Surge have tied a game.
Yeah.
So at the moment, it would have to be Darlington that are going up the road to Mordor. Tom, am I right?
Yeah,
I believe that's what Warwick called it when he was on the show. He said there was Mordor up that way. But again, we're talking about situations where yet again, and I know we're going to cover it later. I'm just that the forfeiting is going to have an impact on the playoffs, because Northant's seeding is probably going to suffer as a result because they've missed games.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's like, I find it totally bonkers as well. They changed it this year, and I believe that's part of the thing that's come out today as well. So again, it's going to be good to talk that through with Steve. This game of the week, I think it will be close. I don't think Bristol will roll all over them.
Not at all.
One thing I remember speaking to the Bristol head coach about, or Bristol Apache head coach about, was how game ready are you for the playoffs? Every team you've played, you've thumped, with the exception of Somerset. Now, this game being now might be the best thing that happens for Bristol, or it could be the worst, obviously. But they could go up against a team that's actually half decent, beat them, feel confident, have the rust knocked off for going into the first week of the playoffs.
Yeah,
and that's better than what Northants have. Northants have played hardly any games. They've not played in weeks and weeks. They're going to go out this weekend and probably thump whoever they're playing.
The Drizzle.
They're going to thump Swindon.
That's if they bother to play.
Yeah, well, that's the case. So it's a huge thing. Realistically, it could be massive for some of the teams, knowing that they've played a whole season and others haven't. And realistically, although that doesn't seem like it would have much of an effect, it will do. We know, we've seen teams in the past that looks great, and then they come into the playoffs against teams that folk think are like not that great, and they end up getting thumped, and you're like, wait a minute, what had on there? And it's usually because they haven't played anybody of note. They've ended up playing teams that are pretty much rubbish, really, really low ranked teams, and then they come in against one tougher defense and they can't break them down, and all that other team needs to do is score once, and then that's the end of your game. So it is an interesting one we've got on here. Tom loves up in Mordor.
Does that make you an orc, Tom?
But I mean, this
asking from a safe distance.
The amount of oil rigs and off at the moment sitting in the Firth up beside their stadium is bonkers. The last time I was up a couple of months ago. So and there's a nice wee street in Invergordon where you can get some decent ice cream. So hopefully whoever's going up there will get that. There we go. In the south, you think the seedings at this point are Bristol 1. I think Essex are 1, are they not? Did they concede a load of points a couple of weeks back?
I don't think it was a load of points, but I think they've had a couple of games where it was like 12 points here, 10 points there, or whatever. I think I do think it is Bristol. Because I think it's the same with Norwich. They've not conceded many, but it always feels like they concede a couple because, they seem to have, pretty tough competition as well. But again, Northants being the 4th seed, purely comes down to the one game where they conceded points to Hereford and then nobody else has bloody played them.
Yeah.
So it's one of those.
I mean, are you sure? Oh no, the Sabres have conceded 24. points.
over
No,
7 games.
sorry. There's another one here. 32 points over 7 games. So I don't know. You're maybe right. Bristol maybe haven't conceded any of that. There you go. Bristol have conceded 20. So yeah, Bristol will be number 1. But yeah, again, depending on what happens this weekend, you'd like to think they're not going to concede that many points. But
well, I mean, they haven't all year. But then was 14 of their points they conceded, not to the Wyverns, if I'm not mistaken.
It was. Yeah.
So that 14 points makes a humongous difference, doesn't it? You know what I mean? So, this game has all sorts of excitement in it, right? And
if they concede 21, it makes a big difference because then there'll be 1 point more than East Essex.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an interesting game. This one. That's why it's our player of the week. Let's see this one. No points conceded, a few more than. Yeah, a few more than Bristol. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah,
We just looked up there.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying, Aaron. Like, you know,
oh, you've conceded 20. Oh, actually, you only need to concede 12 this week. Yeah.
Oh, is it 12, 14? I thought it was 34.
13. Well, 13. Yeah.
So that's what we're saying, though, right? So if they repeat the same scoreline, it changes the seedings. So yeah, you know, it's all to play for, and those 4 games are going to be so interesting to watch to see what happens with them.
We now know fine well who East Essex are cheating for.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. 12 points is advantage. Yeah, so you just need to concede less than 13 for this to go in.
Yeah.
But yeah, we both think Bristol will win, but I think it's going to be a really close game. So we'll see how that goes. Steve's just joined us, so I'm just going to get Steve in here. While he comes in, we'll speak to him for a bit, and then I'll load up this this thing from BAFA. Evening,
Hi
Steve.
there.
How are you?
Yeah, good evening. Good, thanks. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you
great. Right, I'm just going to load this up for you, Steve, just so everybody can see what's kind of gone on. Wait a minute, I just see this last Bristol game. Yeah, it could easily see that. I'm just going to load up this thing while we're talking. So obviously you were at the meeting, Steve. So how was the actual like general tone of the meeting? How did it go?
Yeah, it was really good. It was really good. I mean, we in the preamble to the whole thing, one of the things we were emphasizing in our own group amongst us was that we needed to keep things forward looking and positive and not get tied up with what had gone wrong and what had happened, you know, but looking for solutions. So and interestingly, when Pete Ackley did his opening piece for the meeting, that was his focus, and I was able to reaffirm that was exactly what we were there for. And to be fair, the meeting actually ran with that spirit right throughout. We spent 4.5, nearly 5 hours on the 9 issues that we had put forward, and it was all really positive.
Yeah, so well, that's a good sign as well. Like I'm just going to load this up here so everyone can see it if they haven't already. This is obviously the statement from BAFA saying that it was positive and forward looking. That's you saying that, and Steve said something at the end as well. So like we're just going to kind of run through these. So some of them I'll be honest, I'll hold my hands up and say I wasn't quite sure what it meant. So just
okay,
kind of run through these.
Hopefully I can help with that.
So that face-to-face meetings for clubs to be reinstalled with BAFA calendar, is that for like clubs that are coming into the league?
No, this is for all clubs. If you remember, we used to hold a pre-season meeting for clubs where we started the work on, agreeing alignments, getting the schedule underway, teams bringing information into that process at that point. And as some of the guys that were in our group said, it was also a great opportunity for networking for people as well, a bit like the coaches conference for people that actually run clubs. Sorry, my cat is invading. So, and I'm going to send her on her way. So for people that actually run clubs. And it also gives an opportunity, and I think this is a really key point, for the clubs to have direct access to the people that are running the league to voice any concerns, and for the league to put forward what thoughts or ideas they might be, things that they might be thinking of doing for the season, and give the clubs the opportunity to either say, yeah, great idea, or hey, wait a minute, do you want to just hold on with that because it might not work? Like some of the playoff structures this year, for example.
Yeah, well, the playoff structures will actually come on to, so that clears that up. The second one's easy enough: creation of a contact clubs league forum. So I'm guessing that's a group that everyone can go into and speak to.
And I've got to be absolutely fair. This was purely from Pete Ackley. This wasn't on our list of things that we were looking for, but Pete basically said, look, I think we need to keep a dialogue going. The once a year meeting, good thing. I think this would be a dialogue more likely to be online. But the opportunity for clubs to meet and online and have ongoing discussions about things that are happening in the league. So really good idea, and coming from BAFA.
Yeah, because Steve, you'll know yourself that certainly for Bucks, there's a head coaches sort of forum where all the head coaches are in that, and I found that a really useful tool. So yeah, something like that would be certainly great to, especially to give that, because there's so much stuff said online or whatever. It would be great to have, as you say, that one place where you don't have any of that muck, right? You're just able to communicate about the actual way things are run. So yeah.
And BAFA being involved in it as well, because obviously they tend to stay away from social media stuff. And so, and I think the fact that they came with that idea to run it past us, I think just shows the spirit that the meeting was being held in.
Yeah. That's good. That's great to hear. They're going to expand the available weeks that the season can go over. Obviously, that's been a talking point this year. Smarter scheduling, pushing Britball back later into September, and then a draft made available in December with BAFRA more involved. Like, one of the things that we've seen a couple of times online is that BAFRA told BAFRA they could only ever cover 22 maximum games a week. And obviously there was weeks where it was 26 or 27 games, which obviously leads to a problem straight away. So it's nice to see that they'll push out over a few weeks, hopefully get an extra few refs, and then they won't have so many games over the week. So that one's easy enough there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really important one. It was one of our must-haves, if you like, because it was the compacting of the season and then the blanking out of weekends left you with absolutely no flexibility in the season. For teams playing 3 on the bounce, for example, you couldn't plan properly for the upcoming games. So it was devaluing the product. And I do think that it also contributed to a certain amount of fatigue, which has caused teams problems and maybe led to some of the issues around the forfeits. So for us, getting more weeks back into the league available for league football was an absolute essential from the meeting. And they actually, they haven't made it as a promise, but they've said their intention is to have 18 weeks. We had asked for 16. They certainly accept 16 is necessary. They're going to try and make it 18, so there'll be even more breathing space. The whole big issue or big win out of that is it gives them the opportunity to avoid scheduling self-officiating, which is what the compaction led to. So it was a really important point, and one that we all agreed on. And so, I think that's really positive.
Certainly, Steve, when we were taking part in sort of the group meetings as well, like I spoke on this as well with yourself, and we all knew how important this part was. Like, I don't necessarily have any issue with the GB weekends. It's great to have them. we want to build on the national stage, right? I mean, as going back, I mean, as I say, look what the women's team are doing at the Worlds. You want to build GB on the national stage, but the GB players come from the league, right? So destroying the league to build up the GB squad doesn't work.
Yeah, I think, obviously you go into a negotiation with a negotiating position, and I think some people misunderstood our negotiating position as a group to think that we were actually attacking the national program. I think pretty much everybody in the group supports the national program, me included. And what this does is they'll schedule Division 1, Division 2 games on NP weekends, but obviously taking into account if teams have players in the process, that will be taken into account. But it means some of those games then what don't need to be in the other weeks, and and the other key thing is that there would be sort of rain weeks in there. Also, the BAFTA convention won't move; that will stay where it is and enjoy its current slot in the season.
And it's really important. Like the BAFTA convention is really important. So, like I think everybody knows that that's a great thing to have bang in the middle of the season. So it's good that they're keeping that. The next one's the introduction of a practice-only registration. I'm guessing this is for teams that don't even want to play in the associate process.
No, this is this is right. You get somebody new come along, and basically, all the advice is you're not putting them in kit for their 3 free sessions, right? That's all the advice. USA coaching, everything. So you're asking them to make a decision and spend £50 on a sport that they may not even have committed to at that stage.
Right.
So this gives them the opportunity to pay a £10 pre-season registration fee, which would last up until the 31st of March. There's, the thing about that is that they cannot play games with that £10 registration. If they want to play games, they've got to buy a full registration, right?
And is that
and
a
obviously,
top up? Would that be a top up on the 10?
That we debated that, and if the system can cope with top up, it will be top up. But if not, it will be add on. Okay. But then people have got the choice. They don't have to pay the 10. They can play 50 straight away if they feel confident about it. So. Yeah,
in reality,
the other thing,
£50 over 12 months, like 12 months, is nothing.
Yeah,
realistically.
If
you're gonna stick with it. The other category is two categories: youth and university players stepping up to adult. Do they want to try out a team? At the moment, they have to pay £50 day one because they played football before. This would allow them to pay £10 to find out whether they fit at that level or not. And then the final category is people coming back to the game who've been away, retired for a while, and want to come back, dip their toe, see if they've still got it. And they would be able to pay £10 rather than straight away £50 before they walk on the field.
Yeah.
See, for me, this one, and again, we spoke about this at length, is huge. It really is a huge one because it is. We're trying so hard to bring more people into the game, right? And as you say, it becomes extremely difficult when you're immediately saying to guys, right, I know you've never played before, but give me £50 or give BAFA £50 so that you can play. And yeah, I've certainly seen it. I'm sure you have yourself. Like, it turns guys away straight away. And how many folk have we seen over the years? But even I've seen plenty, and I wouldn't say I've been in the game that long, sort of 10 years, but we've seen guys that come in and they do the first 3 sessions without kit on, and they look quite good. They look like they're ready to ball, and then they sign up, they get their membership fee, they put on pads and helmets to take one shot, and they decide they never want to put pads on again. So,
exactly.
That's a huge one, and I'm so glad that that BAFA have recognised that.
I think it's massive that it's up until the 31st of March only, as well, because like from my point of view, if I was to play devil's advocate here, you could have folk turn up all pre-season realizing they're not on the starters depth chart and then just buggering off, But obviously, if they've had to already pay £10 and they don't want to play the full thing, then it doesn't really matter because the 31st of March is before the season starts. So
and
that's a huge part of it.
It also stops the temptation of any team taking a risk and saying you can train without being registered. It's much easier to persuade someone to give you 10 quid than it is 50. And that's something I think that clubs need to be really aware of the difficulty they might be putting themselves in if they allow people to train unregistered. So this is the system making it easier for clubs to comply.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. That's good. 2023 playing membership fees for adult and women's league contact categories will be reduced by 50% for the remainder of season July the 1st. So I'm guessing this is after July the 1st, it'll be 50% of the price.
Yeah. So
So it's
this
a
was
half season.
this was particularly brought forward by a couple of the women's teams in the group, where they were saying, trying to recruit people in for the final tournament of the year, and you have to say to them full fee. This will give them the opportunity to say, oh well, you've only got one tournament to do, half fee. So, and same for adult contact teams. If you're bringing someone new to the game in after the 1st of July, they would pay half the fee because they're only going to get half the season.
Yeah. Is there a thing about when does the transfer thing come in? Is it
around
after?
the same time. I think it's the first Tuesday in July.
Okay, that's good. Next one here is a long-term look at approach for managing import players and related insurance. I believe you have a big thing about this, do you, Steve? You want this looked at.
I mean,
Was it something you spoke about last time?
yeah, basically our league is restricted in improving itself by the residency rule, right? So our young guys go off and play in Germany because the standard of football is better. Better, more money in the game, and so on. Whereas we used to have the number one league in Europe. So we put forward this idea, and we had a really good constructive discussion about it. And I think BAFA recognised that doing something about this would be a good idea. But there's a big concern from their part, which I fully understand, about visa conditions and getting on the wrong side of the Foreign Office. So we agreed that it should be, this is one for the longer game to try and change the situation so that we can improve the standard of our league by allowing import players, but that we would, let BAFA, they're currently getting some free work done on a study of how they might go about this type of change. And we've said, yeah, fine, okay, the study's going to happen. We're happy that you're thinking about it.
Yeah, well, that's good. I'd say anything to improve the game is always a good thing. This next one here, someone's already commented on this one, liking Luca number 7. This is the biggest thing for me from this year. Agreeing to return the red card, yellow card wording to contact competition rules. Now, I will drag you onto another bit about this once we've finished going through this, but
Yeah.
I think this is a huge thing, especially this year. It's obviously seen, like as we've said, like there's Premiership teams pulled out now, which is ridiculous. And honestly, I think that's the only reason that Bath have really taken action on it. I don't think they've really done anything up till now. And then all of a sudden, 2 Prem teams pull out, and they've released a statement earlier, which I'll show you later, that obviously says that there's going to be potential punishments for teams that have pulled out of multiple games. So it's something we'll look into. I'll pull it up later, but that's a huge one for me, bringing that system back, because there's some teams this year that should just be banned. It should just be that's year that you're done. You've taken the piss.
Had a long discussion about this yesterday, and I'm going to steal Chris's line. I think he's ready to say that there's the there's a factor that if you have the red and yellow card system of deterrence from forfeit, because people know what's going to happen to them, whereas with the rules that BAFA are currently quoting, it's all unclear about, things could happen, but they might not happen. And I think the deterrence factor of knowing that that system is there is really is a really important thing. And I honestly believe that it's now 17 forfeited games this year, with the one that's just happened this weekend, right? 17, right? And I honestly believe a lot of those would not have happened if the red and yellow card system had still been in and teams had known what the consequences were from doing that. Yellow card, relegation, 2 yellow cards, associate status.
Yeah, and this is the
sorry, carry on, Sean.
This is the statement they've put out earlier today, saying, "I want to be very clear that as a result of we'll be reviewing the league status of teams who have forfeited games this season at short notice for reasons deemed to be within their control and who have had poor communication with competition management about it. We need to reflect fairly and honestly as to whether their current league position would remain appropriate for the next year, or if they would benefit from move to a lower level with less pressure or associate status to enable them to recruit again." Now, there's at least 3 teams that I'd be booting straight away. Like, I wouldn't be giving them an option. I would use have taken the piss this year. You deserve associate status. And I don't think those teams would ever make it back. Like, from what we've seen in previous years, I just don't think they would. But it does say above here about basically the rewinding the clubs, that although the red and yellow card system isn't there, that they can take action on it. Now, whether they actually do or not, I'm still skeptical of whether they'll do. But I just think that's I think that they need to be harsh. I think they're going to have to be, especially just now.
See, this is my point as well. Like, and I spoke about this at length, and certainly via our Twitter account, I got into, let's phrase it as, a heated debate with a strong BAFA involved individual. I think that's the best way I can say that. Who, while this was all going on, before the meeting took place, was hammering home about how the yellow-red card system didn't matter. The wording was still in the rules. And then BAFA released a statement saying the wording it's in the rules. We can do something about it. I am glad to see that BAFA, after the meeting, have accepted that, we acknowledge that the wording is in the rules, but the red and yellow card system was concrete, and the red and yellow card system was a deterrent on it. And not only that, the red and yellow card system was consistent. All right? If you were in any division above Division 2, yellow card, relegated. That's it. End of discussion. Two forfeits, red card, associate. Doesn't matter what division you're in. And as we said, I genuinely stand by that if the yellow and red card system had been in place, I reckon it would be safe to assume that around 80% of those forfeits would not have happened this year. And I genuinely believe that. And I know I can't prove it, but that is such a huge one, because when BAFA introduced the yellow and red card system, I think it was probably one of the first times that everyone went, "What a great idea that is."
It was.
That is absolutely a spot-on idea. Yeah, you got some teams that were like, "Oh no, this is unfair." But you know why those teams thought it was unfair? Because they're the same teams that forfeit games. I don't give a shit if they find it unfair, right? Because they're the teams that have caused this rule to be needed. And that's why you needed that definition of the red-yellow card system. And the person that was arguing with me, telling me that I was wrong and it was in the rules, it's not about what's in the. It was about the consistency of the approach. You will not be able to convince me that the reason that the amount of forfeits in 2019, when the yellow and red card system came into place, was so low, and yet once it gets taken away, it skyrockets again. Prem teams forfeiting games, and this is the thing, that was such a huge point. And again, we spoke about it at length, Steve, that
Yeah.
It had to be returned. And, any team that is realistically worth their salt supports that yellow-red card system, because nobody wants to lose out in games because a team can't be bothered playing, right? Why should we all have members, we all have paying members, we have players, we have coaching staff that pay their fees to play the games. We don't want to see teams every week that aren't getting games. We don't want to see Northants going 12 weeks without a game. That's not okay. You know what I mean? And like, I'm so glad. I honestly, like, as bad as it was for them to take it away, I can't praise them highly enough for, after the meeting, acknowledging that it was a mistake. That's what we need. We need, they're not going to get everything right, but when they get things wrong, this acknowledgement that that was wrong and the need to reinstate it is what we need. It's progress. And I know I'm passionate about it. I love the game, but like, I'm so pleased to put that back in, because as Sean said, I could certainly, and I'm going to highlight this comment, sorry, right? Just because I've seen it, because they've forfeited twice, so they'd be red carded, so they'd be punted back to associate, which, to be fair, they don't even belong in there.
Yeah, so on this point, I'll name them. DC President, South Lincolnshire Lightning, Worcestershire Black Knights, all need to go, in my opinion. DC have been in and out of the league numerous times. They can't hold a team. There's three other teams in their local area. Go to one of them. But Worcestershire never ever complete their fixtures. This season's been obviously worse, but again, because they've not been punished. Last week they pulled out because they never had one O-lineman. Unless he was your only O-lineman, there's a serious problem with one guy pulling out. That's ridiculous. And South Lincolnshire have been the same. They got let in when they shouldn't have. They didn't follow the same procedures as everybody else, and all of a sudden, useless. Those three teams, I've no shame at all, Darren, about saying those three teams are useless and you get them out of the league. They're not a good thing for the league.
We had a long discussion on this yesterday, and as Chris has said, in the group before we went to the meeting, this was one of our sort of red line issues, if you like, something that we had to have, and we explained that to BAFA, and they've accepted it and agreed to put it back. Now, the separate issue is what happened. So we were focused on looking forward, solutions for the future. So we focused on bring back the red and yellow card for next year, solve the problem we currently have. BAFA also obviously have a view about this year. Now, we did give them a view that taking out the red and yellow card took away the obvious block to forfeits, and maybe subliminally suggested to people that forfeiting was going to be okay. Now, BAFA really didn't intend that, and it was clear from the meeting that they were quite surprised that we might even think that, but we explained that because it was such a clear thing and it was taken out, that we felt that had an effect. But the other thing you've got to remember is the compacting of the season. I mentioned it earlier, and the fatigue that brought into teams, and I think that did contribute also to the situation. So for me, I would be careful about what I did this year. However, BAFA did say to us that they are making inquiries from teams that forfeited about reasons for why they forfeited, and that they will consider action against teams on a case-by-case basis. So that, and we said, right, fine, that's not one of our issues, so we're going to leave that to you, and that's why it's not mentioned in this document. It's for BAFA to take forward.
The problem they've left themselves with now, though, and again, we spoke. We're speaking about this going forward. We were looking at the future. We understand mistakes have been made; they need to be rectified. But looking at the now, the problem they've left themselves with now is there will be absolutely no consistency on how they deal with things. What do you do? What do you do to the Premier Division teams that forfeit games, which is just utterly unacceptable in my opinion. But do they now relegate the Kent Exiles? I don't think they will, but if you're going by what the rules suggest, then realistically they should be relegated. You know what I mean?
Well, this will be for next year, though. The yellow card.
Yeah, I know, but what we're saying is
2023.
no. But that's what I'm saying. But now they've put themselves in a position where they're speaking about reviewing things this year for what they're going to do with these teams that forfeit, right? So now, and this is why the yellow red card system was so important with the consistency side as well, because you're going to have teams, if they turn around to the Black Knights and say you're out, and then they turn around to DC and say, right, you've been naughty, slap on the wrist, there's going to be serious trouble, right? Because it should be consistent. You can't just, but they said they had this problem. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of teams have said a lot of things. And I understand, they still believed COVID was an issue. But for me, the simplest solution at that point would have been reintroduce the yellow-red card system because we're back to a normal season. And if a team has to forfeit due to multiple COVID tests, send us evidence and you can appeal it. Problem solved. Right? Yeah. That seems fairly straightforward to me. But I get they missed, but they're acknowledging they've made a mistake. That's fine. Not a problem with that at all. Good on them for acknowledging that. But they've now left themselves with the issue that if they're going to deal with teams this year, it has to be consistent. It has to be.
I mean, there is a side where the Black Knights have 3 games they've forfeited now. So they have 3. DC have 2. Lincolnshire have 2. So these are all teams that have done multiple. Kent and Olympians, although it's absolute shocking they actually forfeited in the Prem, they've only done 1.
Yeah, but that's automatic. That used to be automatic relegation.
Yeah.
Now, yes, the Olympians are relegated anyway, and this is what we said about the deterrent side of things. You will never convince me that if the yellow-red card system was in place, that Kent would have forfeited the game last Sunday.
Oh no,
because it would have meant automatic relegation. They would not have done it.
No, I agree with you. By the way, Darren, we'll come back to this. I will remember it's there. Just a few comments here. Yeah, I mean they've been sitting their hands for a while. Deserve half their fees back. Yeah, that's never going to happen. But I agree with you. They've hardly played. Tired of being tired. I don't know about this one. Is that meaning where teams commit to what they're going to do? Because
I think he probably means committee.
All right. Because
yeah,
I think teams.
Committee.
Yeah, I think teams do commit to competition as part of joining BAFA, but whether
when you pay your team membership, you commit.
But, This is correct, Darren. This is D1.
And he's probably going to absolutely loathe me for name dropping him here, but I spoke to Tom from the Highland Stags about this because I name dropped the Highland Stags under this issue about 30 times because they had to go through the associate process, that same process, the 35 players at games, the 5 games, the home and away, and they did it multiple times and narrowly missed out. And it took them like the 3rd attempt to get into the league, and look at them now. And yet, for some reason, inexplicably last year, DC Presidents, South Links Lightning, just admitted without having to go through these processes, and here we are.
Yeah.
Again, the process was great.
You could add Sussex Thunderbolts to that as well.
Yeah.
Well,
and the Squadron as well. They've forfeit a game too, haven't they?
Yeah. Well, whatever's happened to them, like the Squadron are just bloody Maidstone, and they were useless anyway. But whatever happens there, you're right. They have to be fair, but it was so much better. The level of associate team it came in 2018 was so much higher. That even the ones that started in 2018 and never got in till later, it was so robust, and the teams that got in there have done really well. So it obviously worked, and that's what you're saying. It's so robust. Look at the teams: Highland, Scunthorpe, Northants, even
Hereford,
Inverclyde won the division in 2019 after coming in. Now they're a slightly different story because half of them were Trojans, but that's not the point. So yeah, it is. He was meaning committee. Do that comment. I'll send another one further down. Yeah, it's just it's one of these things. But I agree with you. I think they are the right decisions to bring this back. But we've spoken enough about it, so we'll go into this next one. The Bucks All-Star game. I actually know nothing about, but scheduling it before the National League starts is actually obvious. It should be relatively obvious, you'd think.
Yeah, this year it was scheduled the day before the first day of the BAFA season. And so you had players that were due to play Bucks All-Star and then play their first BAFA game the next day. And BAFA actually took a decision to allow them to do that, which is completely contrary to safety. The fact that in IFAF competition, you have to have 2 clear days between games. So the fact that they sanctioned them to play 2 full games in 24 hours was wrong. But again, full credit to BAFA at the meeting. This subject lasted about 30 seconds because they said, yeah, it will be scheduled before the start of the BAFA season next year. Yeah. And from there on, no problem. So, they accepted it straight away.
Yeah, well, that's good. As I say, if you accept it and you know it's wrong and you accept it and you change it, great. That's all we're looking for. That's what this meeting was for. In 2023, return to adult contact playoffs used in 2019. Return to the plate finals for under 19 and under 16. Obviously, it's something that's raised its head purely because it was changed mid-season this year. And obviously, like in the north, it's caused it to be a bit shit. So Northumberland are going to play East Kilbride again, and Leicester are going to play Chester again.
I think people across the country think it's a bit shit.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that in Division 2, only the division winners go into the playoffs, where it used to be the top 2 in the division. So you lose your first game, and you're basically done as far as the competitive season is concerned.
The thing is, Steve, it wasn't just the top 2; it was the top 2 plus the 2 best placed third place teams.
Yeah. Well, that will come back because they're taking it back to 2019. So also in Division 1, they've got this situation this year where the first playoff game you play is against somebody from your own division who you've already played. It's crazy. Yeah. Why would you want to do that? So second place first in the same division as the first playoff game. Crazy.
The thing is, I feel like we've been absolutely robbed of some unbelievable games as well. In my opinion, I could be wrong, and the games would be absolute dog. But in my opinion, I feel like we've been robbed of some really good games. Like in the north, the playoff picture for the Division 1 playoffs should have given us the Leicester Falcons against the Northumberland Vikings and the East Kilbride Pirates against the Chester Romans. And honestly, if they were live streamed, I'd watch both without hesitation. Instead, we're getting the Northumberland Vikings versus the East Kilbride Pirates Part 3 and the Leicester Falcons versus the Chester Romans Part 3.
Yeah, exactly.
It just is so bad. It just takes away from all the excitement. I mean, part of the excitement of going to the playoffs is you play people you haven't played before, right? That's part of the fun of it. Yeah. I'm glad to see they're returning because again, it's acknowledgement of a mistake.
So for adult contact, it goes back to exactly what it was in 2019. So whatever you had then is what you'll have for 2023. Also, really importantly, this was a big point for the under 19, under 16 as well, where the playoff opportunities were massively reduced and the plate competition was taken out so that teams losing their first game could almost write off postseason, and kids have got other things they can go and do if they think they're no longer in a competitive team. So again, it's contributing towards low numbers, losing people from the sport. So that's being put back to where it was in 2019 also. And another important point for the Women's League, the playoff opportunities this year were massively reduced, and that caused issues in the Women's League also. And what we agreed yesterday with BAFA, they didn't say we'll take it back to 2019 because there have been different formats for the Women's League over a period of time. So they're going to look at what's the best opportunity to maximize playoff opportunities for National Women's League for the National Women's League for 2023. So, in other words, an improved and enhanced playoff system will be put in place for the Women's League next year.
That's great news as well.
See, there's two comments on this. Sorry, Tom and Aaron have both hinted at the same thing. I actually really agree with you. I like the idea of a Division 2 nationalised final. I really do. And I hope it's something that certainly, although we've said revert to 2019, I hope when we have these meetings discussing, when we have these meetings discussing the season going ahead, I certainly hope that the idea of a national final for the Division 2 teams is something that can be discussed. The issue is that this was changed 3 weeks into the season. And there's no reason why, even if you wanted to have a national final, that you couldn't have still put 8 teams in the north and 8 teams in the south into the playoffs.
The extension of the time frame will help with that. It was something we touched on yesterday, but fairly briefly. Certainly coming back will be the regional finals that you had previously. And there was a discussion about, well, why not then go on to a national competition? And I think you're absolutely right, Chris, that is something that the October meeting can discuss, whether there's a national final. And obviously, the direct comparator, if you like, is you look at Bucks, where Division 2 finishes at regional levels. Okay. In the Bucks playoffs, there's only regional finals for Division 2, and then for Division 1 and Prem national finals, which is the way it was in BAFA. But there was a discussion yesterday about if we've got more space in the schedule, should we consider it? I think it's something for the October meeting for sure.
Well, yeah. I actually think differently to most people on this. So I actually think that if they hadn't changed it mid-season, I think that one team from each division in Division 2 is fine. I do. I think it's enough. There's 8 teams. It's a lot of teams in the playoffs. I also think that the reason it was a North final and a South final is, could you imagine, like, we already had to travel to Chester from Aberdeen. Could you imagine Highland having to travel to Bristol? And
but they wouldn't have to, Sean. You'd still have your regional competition, and then the winner of the North plays the winner of the South somewhere neutral.
Right. So you're meaning it goes north all the way to a champion and south all the way to a champion. All right, What's coming here that's been mentioned is a 8v8, which
but and this is what I'm speaking about. I understand your point about the division winners from each team. I get it, but the thing is, you're going to have teams that have split the wins and missed out by a point, for example, which could happen for second and third. I understand that, but like there are 12 teams in the Prem and 4 playoff teams. Then there's there's 4 divisions of 6 in Division 1, 4 divisions of 6. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So my maths brain isn't working. 24 teams, and there's 8 teams go to the playoffs there. And then in Division 2, there's like 32 teams and only 8 playoff teams.
Yeah, but what I mean for that is you then add another week of playoffs. So if there's 16 teams, you then have 5 weeks to get to the national final in the playoffs, which is a long time for a team to sustain 8 games in the regular season and then have 5 games in postseason. That's a lot.
But Sean, they could have a 10-game season like everyone else. So all you're doing is adding 1 game, potentially, for a national final.
How did you get to 5 games?
Well, if they're going to have a national final at the end, there'll be 16, 8, 4, 2, then a national final.
No, because the 2 is the national final, you nugget.
No, not if there's 2 teams.
No, there's 2 teams. There's 8 teams in the north, and there's 8 teams in the south.
Not if there's 2 from each division. There's 16.
No, there's not, because there's 4 divisions in the north and 4 divisions in the south.
But you're saying that we want 2 teams from each division to make the playoffs.
Yes, so 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 2 is 8.
Oh, right, okay. My math is shocking.
Yeah.
Right.
Dear God, man.
So there'd be what? So it'd be 8, 4, 2, and then a final. So there'd be 4
quarter, semi, it'll be quarters, semi, regional final, national final. The national final is not agreed by this. The regional finals are agreed. What I'm saying is, I think it's a fair thing to say there could be a discussion at the October meeting, which is a commitment, about whether there should be a national final or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, as I
It's
say,
going to be interesting.
I understand both sides of it, in that not wanting a national final because the travel costs could be astronomical as well. But I do like the idea of a national final. But I think having only 8 teams from 8 divisions, it's not enough.
Yeah,
No,
I don't
I
know.
mean,
I think the way it was before, you would end up getting like a third place team in there that was shocking and should have never been there.
No, but that was when we had 3 divisions, 3 conferences, so it was 2, 2, 2 plus 2/3. But now that it's 4 and 4, it would just be 2, 2, and 2. And honestly, I mean, it should be 2 from each division.
In the quarterfinal of the playoffs, we beat a team like 66-0, like in Division 2. Like that's bonkers, and it's because they were the third place team, and like from my point of view, like if you've got the best team from each division in Division 2, that's enough, like in my opinion.
Yeah, but then if you get 2 really good teams in a division, one just misses out, whereas they may improve during the year and actually, but they've lost the first game, so they're done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think let people play football. That's my view. Yeah.
I just worry about the cost. Like I know how much it cost us to travel through the playoffs, the times we did it, and if the more playoffs there are, the more games there are, the more cost is. And Division 2 cost tends to be a problem.
But amazingly, Sean, people, if they get the opportunity for a playoff game, they'll find a way. Yeah, I mean, it's the way it works, isn't it?
I mean, as I said, all it would do is, if you look at sort of our season in 2018, all it would have meant was that, after we played Chester, both teams would be promoted. We won our final in the North. Would have meant that we would have got a national final against the Hertfordshire Cheetahs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I know it's a valid point that's just been made. I made there. Well, yes, Tom, of course you do. It doesn't affect you, does it?
Not this year.
Yeah,
so what's the other one here?
Number 1 seed.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one, but I don't disagree with it just being one team in each division. I understand where folk are coming from, but when it's Division 2, it is.
I think when you consider the percentage of teams in the division you're eliminating before the playoffs, the percentage is astronomical compared to the other divisions, and that isn't right.
And I think the thing that convinced us as a group to represent this was the fact that teams from Division 2 were telling us that they were losing recruitment opportunities where people, or sustainability, because people felt they were no longer competitive after losing their first game because there was no chance of going on and just to answer Darren's point here, if you don't mind me jumping on it, is that it would still mean the regional final winners get the promotion. So you still need one up in the north, one up in the south. Even if you have the national final game, you still have your regional finalists get promoted, just as they do in Division 1.
Yeah. So the promotion would happen at the exact same stage it happened at in 2019.
Absolutely.
You would just then get to go and compete for a national final.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be interesting anyway, that one. The next one here is a commitment to more central venues to better communication for format finals. Yeah, again, it's I've highlighted 2 there. Yeah, it's try to get that would be good.
This was one that came directly from BAFA as well. It wasn't on our list of 9, but yeah, I mean, what's to not like about that?
Yeah. The next one, installing plans to support development 11v11 football for small-sided contact formats of the game. Is that outside of the actual contact league itself, or is that within?
No, this is actually trying to bring back 11-on-11 for junior. Sorry, I get told off for using the old terms. Under 19, under 16. But under 16, I think they're looking to try and at some point go to sevens, maybe nines. But certainly under 19s used to be 11s. So this is developing plans to try and support teams to help them get back to 11 on 11, so that our under 19 national team is more competitive, because they're not playing 11 on 11 for the first time when they go into the EJC.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting, that one. The same with the deferring transition of under 16 contact football from 5 to 5 to 7 with 7, which was planned for 23. We dialogue with before the teams are introduced to further changes. Yeah, again, another thing that I really don't have much involvement in, but
this again was directly from BAFA, not one of our 9, but people from our group were very interested in this and were put forward some really good views on it. I think nobody doesn't want to have 7 on 7, but what they're saying is you can't just set it to happen. You've got to give teams support and allow them to plan for that. So this was calling off a sort of an arbitrary switch to 7 on 7 and saying, right, we're going to, through the October meetings and the forum, work on support mechanisms to actually help people get to those bigger sided teams, with a view to moving it on all the time.
Yeah. But that, again, that's good though. Trying to grow it across all things is a good thing. Yeah, this is why I was alluding to as well, Tom. Like, I actually think some people think that all the playoffs in Division 2 won't take place this year either. I think that they think there'll be some forfeits.
Whispers in the crew wouldn't be in at the 8th seed.
Yeah. The under 19s on Sunday, one of the best finals I've watched in the history of football in Northern. All 4 teams played with heart, nothing but respect for them all. Chester, Ipswich, and Northwich Academy can hold their heads high. 7v7, but surely 11v11 would benefit for Europe.
It absolutely would.
Yeah.
It absolutely would. But you've got to help teams and support them in order to be able to make that move. It can't just happen.
Yeah.
This is also my point for this year. If you win one playoff game in Div 2, you're now promoted.
Yeah.
One game and that's it. And yeah, potentially 0 if there's forfeits. You'd like to hope the division winners aren't forfeiting games. So
he's talking about people coming down because they.
That's valid as well. In some cases, don't even have to win a playoff game.
Yeah. It is definitely an interesting thing, and we'll wait and see exactly what happens. Obviously, for the Division 1 and Prem, want them to be returned to 2019. The Division 2 will be a good discussion to have if they are going to go for a national final after the regional finals.
I would like to answer on this point though, saying that there's 2 additional games just for kudos. Take it from somebody that's been to a final and won it. Yes, you're already promoted, but don't think that those games don't matter. Trust me, when you get there, it matters. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's just for kudos.
Yeah.
Ask any team that's won the Division 1 national final whether they would have liked to finish their season when they won promotion in the regional final. The answer, certainly from our point of view at the Thrashers when we did it, was absolutely no. The national final was the cherry on the top. Yeah,
I'm sure we wouldn't have minded seeing Mr. Craig Barnes and Russell in the.
I'd love to go toe to toe with them. We chat so much now. We didn't get that opportunity before when I was like 40 pounds lighter and playing quarterback to go up against a defensive coordinator like Mr. Barnes. So I'm disappointed that we didn't get that. But I see the argument on both sides. I get it.
That's one for the future.
So. Yeah, definitely.
Have you guys got anything more to add on that before we rattle through these games? We're going to have to actually rattle through these games before I go. But yeah, let's absolutely agree with gents. I mean, needing to go further to gain promotion. Yeah. I say all these stuff it's all come out today after the meeting, so it sounds like it was a good meeting. It sounds like things are progressing in the right direction. We're actually getting some good things in there, and realistically, that's all we wanted. That's the whole reason that this thing was put in place in the first place,
Yeah.
was to bring. There you go, like, I'm ready, bring it on.
I'm not, Russell.
um, it's the whole reason this was done is to get dialogue and get like people talking and try and get things sorted out, because they've been shocking this year. No matter how much folk try and hide it, they have been really bad. So it'd be nice to have that solved for next year, so that everything runs a bit smoother. So yeah, that is great. If anyone's got any questions, then I'll keep reading them off. But I'm just going
It's
to run
definitely
through this game.
it's definitely a good news story.
It's
It is,
I would
progress.
say. Yeah,
The whole point of it is that BAFA and teams were able to sit down round a table and work on solutions to make the game better. It's all we ask for. It's all we ask for. If they're willing to engage to help us try and make the game and the league as a whole better, then that is all we ask for. And I think that's a huge, huge step forward. And I've said it before, but obviously, Steve, thanks for taking the lead on that. There we go. Is to kind of step up. I mean, okay, in some ways it obviously affected yourself at the Solent Thrashers, but nowhere near as much. I don't mean it like that. There's been other effects that have affected other teams that maybe haven't affected you guys.
Yeah.
But you've still stepped up.
I'll be honest, none of the issues are particularly important to the Thrashers as a club, but I think it's important to us because we love football like you guys do, and I'm very grateful to the club for supporting me in taking it forward, and grateful to all the people that got involved and for their input and their work on it.
And you've got to remember that I would guarantee almost every team was a Division 2 team once. So no matter how you get, once you get up there, you should remember like where everyone came from, and that's a huge thing. Right, we're going to roll through these games at the end. Steve, are you wanting to just stay on for it?
I can do if you like. Yeah.
I thought this game was last week.
They played 2 weeks in a row.
Oh God, Halton aren't going to want to see that. Well, just quickly run through these because I can't be on much longer, I'm afraid. But quickly run through these. Obviously, Birmingham absolutely thumped Halton last week, and I don't think it's a horrendous travel distance for Birmingham. Halton will be looking to gain a little bit of revenge, but I can't see past Birmingham on this one. Any thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a repeat of last week. Yes, Halton are at home, so the game might be a bit closer this time round. But yeah, I still believe that Birmingham will have too much in the end.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think that's where that one's going.
Yeah, this one is an interesting one purely because the Cats should win this one, judging by form in their division. It should secure them the top seed in their division. But it's a banana slip game. London Blitz have nothing to lose. It's London Blitz B, by the way. London Blitz B have nothing to lose here, except for maybe like just going in there and beating a division rival in the last game of the season to stop them potentially being a higher seed in the playoffs. Realistically, if the Cats come out and play properly, I know they weren't happy with the way the rankings were done, and they told me, "Oh, well, we only had one receiver." Well, I'm sorry, I don't get second by second reports like the boys in the NFL. We are purely like just looking at everyone's social media status and anything that people tell us. But if you've got a full squad and you are feeling good again, then you should win this game into the playoffs, and then we'll see what you are really made of. But it should be a decent game. Cats for me, Chris.
Dogs do my nine.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd expect the Cats to win this game again. I mean, does it have any effect? I mean, can they even fall behind Wembley?
They're not that.
I lost Steve.
No, they can't. No, they can't. I don't think.
So if they can't, and it's cross-divisional game, then does this even matter to the Cats?
Let me have a look. Wait a minute, he dropped out there. 2 seconds.
I fell off.
Yeah. If Popohov's watching, he'll know, but I'm just going to check.
Because if it is just going to be the interdivision game, Wembley do hold the head-to-head. Yeah, okay, so it does matter. Yeah, I'd expect the Cats to then go for all guns blazing after slipping up last week then.
Yeah, so if Wembley, there you go, Popov, course.
To
So
make
Wembley
sure-
hold the head-to-head over the Cats, so the Cats need to win to maintain their top seed.
Yeah.
Yes, and they want they want home field.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. So Cats for me, Cats for Chris. You Cats as well,
Yeah,
Steve?
yeah, they should win it. Yeah.
Yeah. Roughnecks versus Dunfermline Kings. No refs at this game.
There's only 2 games in Scotland this week, and one of them doesn't have refs.
Yeah.
It's kind of the epitome of what we've seen, and like I would like to point out that I know there's a couple of injured officials. I know that one of them's away at the World Championships in Finland. But it kind of just epitomizes everything, doesn't it? That we've got no refs for this game in the last game of the season when there's only 2 going ahead. Dunfermline, yeah, they've had a tough year, but they also got not just their first points on the board last week, but they scored twice. We're coming off, an extremely tight loss to the Stags. It was a physical game. I actually lost their quarterback to injury in that game as well. Yeah, we're very much aware of how prepared Dunfermline are going to be against us.
They'll win their first win of the season as well.
But I mean, that's all we're focused on is us.
Yeah, it's all you can focus on. Hope the rest for playoffs. Yeah, let's hope so. 10 on the Kings, I'm good for it. Yeah, I think for this, the Roughnecks, in my opinion, will be too strong for Dunfermline. They've got to come up to Aberdeen as well. I've seen enough from both teams over the last couple of years to think that Aberdeen will win this one. But yeah, losing your starting QB is obviously not ideal. So we'll see how that goes. Steve, you Roughnecks side, or you going with
despite the fact that in the last game of the Thrashers had Chris predicted against the Thrashers, I'm going to predict for the Roughnecks.
Yeah.
The thing is, Steve, is I always feel bad when
you
I
were
have
right.
to
The bad thing is you were right as well. So
it hurts when I do it. Like I do feel
bad. The next one's the other game in that division: Clyde Valley Blackhawks versus Dumfries Hunters. Chris, do you want to say anything about this one first?
Yeah, I mean, they're both incredibly physical teams in the trenches, right? And I think with this game, I wouldn't go as far to say as I think there's going to be a bit of bad blood for this one, but I know there was a situation whereby the first meeting at Dumfries between these two teams didn't go ahead and was decided as a 0-0 tie or something. And I know that neither team was particularly happy with one another with that outcome. Clyde Valley haven't played since a couple of weeks ago when they lost to us in a tight game, and the Hunters got a big win against the Kings the other week. I don't know who to pick because I'm going to make enemies no matter who I pick in this one, but I kind of fancy the Hunters.
Oh, you scumbag. You're going to get so much hate online.
I am going to get so much abuse. I'm going to get so much abuse. And to be fair, one of the people that's probably going to give me abuse is Tam, because he said he never gets a shout out from me because he literally plays like quarterback, middle linebacker, and a bit of everything, to be honest. So I'm half expecting my phone to start buzzing with nothing but abuse from him. But yeah, I'm going to back the Hunters.
Yeah, I'm going to back Clyde Valley in this one. I think that they'll at home. That's going to say that is
right on cue.
He was watching. Yeah, I think football is a winner. Football's always a winner. I think Clyde Valley will win this one. I think one of the people that make the difference will be people like Tam and Jordan.
Yeah.
Even when I watched a couple of weeks ago, he just runs through people. It's nuts to watch. So yeah, if Dumfries can stop them, then fair enough. I think they've got a decent chance. But Clyde Valley for me. Steve, you want to pick one in this one?
I don't know enough about either of the teams to make an informed guess, but I think when I'm in that situation, if it's been close between them before, I'd go with the home team. So I'd say
Yeah.
Clyde Valley.
I'm so glad Tam popped up there. That was just perfection. Thanks for that, man.
Yeah. Two scumbag ones on our list this year. Obviously, Scunthorpe are probably disliking the horses at the moment, and South Lincolnshire have pulled out a number of games. So, but realistically, Doncaster are still going to be way too strong for South Lincolnshire. I think there's like the top teams, then there's like down a little bit, then there's Doncaster, then there's like down away, and then there's South Lincolnshire. So, I think Doncaster win this one pretty comfortably. Chris?
Yeah, I'm in total agreement. Doncaster are literally the lesser of two evils here as well. They're still evil, but they're not as evil as the Lightning. And yeah, I mean, football's the loser this time round. But I'll back Doncaster to win.
Steve?
Well, I had a year as the head coach at Doncaster, so I still love them, and I think they'll win this one.
Just don't speak to Warwick about him. This was our other game of the week potential. Obviously, huge implications as well. The reason it didn't get picked is because I don't think Lincolnshire are going to win by 15 points and overturn this deficit and take the top spot off Scunthorpe. I think Scunthorpe at home will be a bit stronger. Lincolnshire are going to come out fighting though. They'll want to try and nab that top spot off them. But at home, I think Scunthorpe will just have that little bit extra. I don't see a 15-point turtle, but I'm going to pick Scunthorpe here. Chris?
Yeah, and I'm kind of in the same boat. Like the reason I didn't want to, we've already picked this one as game of the week before, but away from home, it was a tight game until second half, and then Scunthorpe just accelerated away. And now they're at home, and if they were able to make the adjustments in the second half to overcome Lincolnshire, I feel like now that they've had many weeks to review the tape and watch what's going on, I feel like that benefits Scunthorpe as well. I still don't think Scunthorpe are going to win it going away, but I think they'll win it.
Yeah, I think Scunthorpe look like a really well organised club. Good structure, good people. I'm sure Lincolnshire are as well, but I think again at home with their nose already in front, I think that they'll finish their job.
Yeah, I can't see Scunthorpe or Lincolnshire doing that. But yeah, it's certainly an interesting one there. Thank you for the vote of confidence. Bombers have a good offense. Yeah, they do. They've had that for a couple of years, so be interesting to see that one. Next one.
Is this one even going ahead though? Because the last week there was the rumor that, or not
I think
rumor.
it was last week they pulled out.
Yeah, but there was talk of them pulling out of this one as well because there wasn't meant to be any refs. I don't know.
I've not seen anything yet online. People maybe will able to tell us, but this should be a Staffordshire win. Like there's nothing really to say about this one. Crew have obviously decided. Staffordshire.
Hard agree.
Yeah. Okay, agree.
Yeah, this next one here, Gateshead Senators versus Nottingham. Now, obviously, they can't go to the playoffs now. Gateshead because DC have definitely put nail in coffin to that, even though it wouldn't have mattered. But they've got one last home game for their fans and
probably want to prove a point.
Yeah,
they want to prove a point. I think
they will. Yeah, and the thing is, it's good. It's always good for recruitment. Like you say, we were so close to being the best team in this division. Couple of extra bodies, we might be the best team in this division next year. So, for me, Gateshead will win this one pretty comfortably. Chris?
Yeah, I'm the same on this one. I just think Gateshead have too much, even if they've maybe slightly tuned out. If they have, I doubt they will have though.
No. Stevie, agreed?
Yeah, agreed.
Colchester versus East Valley. Again, Colchester had a kind of weird kind of season. I thought they'd have been up there with Norwich this season. They have, however, been pretty decent against everybody else. They've not won as comfortably as I thought they would. East Valley have at home a really good defense. Like they just don't concede many points at all. But away from home at Colchester, I think Colchester are going to have too much here. I don't think it's going to be a hugely high scoring game. But Colchester for me by maybe 2 scores. Chris?
Yeah, I have been well documented. I've been absolutely abysmal at picking winners from this division this year. I seem to get it wrong every week. But I'll back the Gladiators with them being the home team.
Yeah, I think it would be a close one because they're close rivals, but I do think Colchester will win out.
We've got family up there as well, Tom.
Yeah, Nick. Screenshots a thing. You don't want to like.
Yeah.
You
This
don't want
next,
that getting sent out.
no, this next one's another one that's important for Norwich. Obviously, just keep the scores as low as possible on the defense. You just don't want to concede any points realistically. Just try and help yourself out. See if you can go up a seed or remain where you are, depending on what's happening. I don't know the exact points, but Norwich have looked good all season. They've been number one team for almost the entire season in our power rankings. And I think that if they can close out the season here, concede no points, I think they go into the playoffs looking pretty strong. And I think they'll do quite well there. So Norwich for me, Chris.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, Norwich have looked really good, but we've not been talking about them much, right?
No, they've
And
kept quiet.
I think that's maybe playing into their favor as well. They're just quietly putting together a good season. Like, we're talking about Bristol and Northants for the playoffs and, with Essex thrown in there. But Norwich are a damn good football team, and they've shown that again this year. I think the main thing for Norwich is, yes, they don't want to concede points, but you just need to go out there and play your game, right? Because if you go into it thinking, as long as we concede less than 3 points, you make mistakes, you turn the ball over, and you end up tying or losing the game. So I think as much as not conceding points is big for Norwich, it's more important they just play their game, and I think they will, and I think they'll get the win.
Yeah, Steve.
Yeah, this is the derby game for East Anglia, obviously. Big rivalry between these two. But I think again with Norwich having a lot more on the line for this, that they will win it.
Yeah, and Norwich, one thing for Norwich here as well is that I firmly believe that they have one of the toughest divisions. So they've already played some tough teams before they go into the playoffs. So that should be interesting. Does this game go ahead?
Do you know what? Purely because I hope for Northants Knights' sake it does, I'm going to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
I really hope it does, because it would just be so grim if it doesn't.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
But no,
they're watching Luke.
But I just don't have faith that it will. You know what I mean? Yeah, so far so good, but I'm sorry to tell you this, Northants, but we said a couple of weeks ago we had a sneaky suspicion that teams were waiting until after our show to avoid the scumbag section. So give it maybe an hour or two after we finish tonight before you start doing a victory lap that your game's going ahead. Because I hate to tell you this, but it has happened more and more often in more recent weeks that once we come offline from here, an hour later, this game's off. So please just don't jump the gun yet, because I would not bet on it just yet. Exactly, Darren. Exactly. It's what happened last week and the week before. So let's just, assuming it goes ahead.
Fear the scumbag section. That's all we'll say.
Assuming it goes ahead, what you're going to see from Northants is a team that has to knock off a lot of weeks of rust. The only advantage they have is that, for doing this, is that outside of Hereford, maybe, the only people in that division that could probably actually give the Northants players a challenge is their own team. So the one advantage is at least every week they've been practicing against better than they're going to be playing against.
I don't know if I should say this, but if I was Swindon, I'm not sure I'd want to. They're going to be really frustrated and really angry. They're going to be wanting to put all sorts into that game. So I really hope they play, because we want to see Northants play again before the playoffs. But you know what I mean? you just get a feeling that Northants are going to come out really angry and just want to destroy everybody. So, but Northants win for me.
The thing is, Darren, right? And just before I'll let Steve chime in with his pick on this. The thing with this is what teams seem to fail to realise is we'll just rip it out of them the next week.
Yeah.
So they're not avoiding anything.
No.
Yeah,
Okay.
and see, there was me thinking bringing back the red and yellow card was the important thing. Moving the Breens show to Sunday morning is what we should have been asking for. So that
Well, just for the sake of the London Olympians, we should wait until kickoff just to be safe.
yeah,
Yeah. Northant Knights all the way then for everybody.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, this is another one. Wait until after the show. An hour goes by before you put this game on.
Oh
Hereford,
no. Well, I guess Hereford.
Yeah, Hereford have been the only team that have run Northants anywhere near close, and they look decent all year. To be fair, the Black Knights are at home, so they should really, like, no matter how bad it's going to be, they should play this game. But do not rule out another hour after a show pull out for this one. If not, Hereford thump them. Chris?
Yeah, I mean Hereford are a good team. They've given those Northants guys a game as well. Yeah, I mean, well, they might have one lineman missing, guys. All that drama. But yeah, if this game goes ahead, Hereford win. But I'm still going to say if. The worst part is we could make this situation so much worse as well in the respect that if we moved it back until Sunday to kickoff, teams would just start bailing at halftime again. So it just doesn't matter what we do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Hereford for me as well.
Yeah, this one, obviously the Cornish pasty bowl or whatever they call it is.
I'm sorry. As in, is it for Hereford? Is that the charity?
Oh,
Like the points they're going to give up to the Northants Knights are going to give them. The Worcester Black Knights are going to give them. That's the charity, is it?
Yeah, this one's I think they call it the pasty bowl. This one, but realistically, it's not going to be a bowl game. The Cornwall Monarchs will walk away with this one. Torbay just need to get through the season and then rethink themselves for next year and see how they go. But Cornwall for me.
Yeah, Cornwall for me as well.
There you go.
We should be doing this. We're putting ideas into teams' heads.
I know. This next one's a little bit interesting, purely because
Cornwall for me, by the way.
Oh, did you not pick? Sorry.
No, it's all right.
This one's a slightly interesting one, purely because also the East Essex Sabres hold need to concede as little points as possible as well. And Berkshire, oh damn it, I did it again. Berkshire are probably their closest opponents. So it's at home. They need to go out, take care of business again, try and concede as little points as possible. But I think Berkshire will give them a game because I think Berkshire scored a fair bit of points in the last game they were out. Chris?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's similar line as what I said with Norwich. East Essex Sabres are a damn good team. They put together a good season. The only thing for them is, again, yes, you want to concede as little as possible, but don't get so hung up on conceding so little that you don't play your game of football. So yeah. I still think the Sabres get the job done.
Yeah,
I think if there's going to be an upset, it's this one.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you either. I think if Berkshire come and play, Essex are going to have to be on their toes. I think it's going to be a close one.
Essex should win it, but if there's going to be an upset, I think it's this one.
I agree with you. I think Berkshire were one of my picks at the start of the season. They kind of got better as the season went on, so we'll see. This one, however, shouldn't be close. South East squadron have been pretty dire all year. Had a couple of okay results, but East Kent, they're kind of your middle ground team in this division. They've done really well against the poor teams, and then they've struggled against the better ones. So for me, it's a East Kent Mavericks pick here. Chris?
Yep, East Kent all the way for me.
Yeah, same here.
I'm trying to find the scores for that division, but I can't seem to find them. Useless.
Because it went through, certainly the first half of the season, it was absolutely gruesome watching that division because every week it was like 8-0 and then 6-3 and then 7-0 and 6-0.
So here's the biggest thing here, right? Let me just look at this. Oh no, so Oh, Berkshire have already played these Celtics twice. So they lost 7-0 at home, and then they lost 10-0 away from home. So they've both been really close. So it could be a close one. But yeah, East Kent Mavericks should win this one. Steve, did you pick East Kent for this one as well?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Cancelled game. DC scumbagged it, so they won't play in. Last show for here, game day live. I'm guessing they'll probably have some during the playoffs as well. But last regular season one, again, it's been huge this year. Actually, some of the view numbers they've had, and they've had some great things come on it. So if you've got games tomorrow, mostly Division 2 and a couple of Division 1 games, send the hashtag in, send your scores in, videos. We can get you online and stuff to do red zone touchdowns and go from there. Chris, you got anything to add?
One last quick prediction from you for Sunday. GB Lions or Team USA?
Team USA.
Steve?
I just can't see them see past the USA.
Listen, I still think I've got a future in the sport in this country, so I'm going with the Lions.
Chris?
Well, nobody likes me anyway, but nah. Do you know what? I'm gonna pick GB. I'm gonna back the Lions. I'll pick the Lions to win on Sunday.
Any given Sunday. Any given Sunday.
Yeah. Is it on a Sunday?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It'll be streamed as well.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nick. Obviously, thanks, Dad. This is an interesting one as well. Just before we go, yeah, it is crazy to think that was the division a few years ago. You see where all those teams are now. So it's a cracking division, right? Obviously, it's our last show this season. We will put stuff out in articles. So again, thanks, Steve, for joining us to fill us in on all that updates.
Great to be here as always. So thanks a lot. You'll be missed. Yeah.
We're sorry about that. It's just other things are getting in the way, unfortunately, for the season. So, and realistically, after next week, there won't be enough games. I believe there is supposed to be some live streamed playoff games coming, so we'll maybe be able to post about that.
Yeah.
We'll put out our predictions and everything over the weeks. Obviously, power rankings for Division 2 will be finalised this weekend as well, and then we'll go after our awards article at the end of that, and we'll be good for the season and onto next year. So thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you again soon. Thank you very much for joining. Catch you later.
Cheers, guys. See you later.